Hello and welcome to another glorious read. I am your host, Aspen Sage. Let's get into it. I know I am late getting going and posting, and it's been a long day. I mean, we are getting hit by snow right now, and it's not a pretty picture. But you know what goes with cozy nights is hot chocolate, hot coffee, maybe one of those warm blankets, a nice warm heater or a fire, and of course, what we talk about every time is a cozy book. I just got done reading the third book of the Body Count. What is Riordan's Revenge? I thought it was Rodian. They do call him Rio in the book. They also call him Riot. So Riordan, I do correct myself because I always thought it was Rodian. But then again, I'm not very good with words sometimes. Yes, I'm an author. Yes, I do read, but I'm not always good with words. It's just dyslexia and everything else, and reading too fast. It's horrible. So sometimes when I have trouble, I just go to the closest word, and it's not a pretty picture, but it is what it is. I enjoyed the book regardless. And of course, I did say in the last episode that the Skeleton Crew is a twist off to the Body Count series. And I found out the Body Count series is a twist off to another series um, that this author wrote. And she did a beautiful job with this one. I don't know why it took long to get through it though. Considering I started this book right after I finished book two, I don't know why it took me so long. And the saddest part is it was getting like going. And I was like, I want to know who the murderer is. Like, I got really involved. And of course, I had my suspicions who it was, and I was absolutely right. I knew who it was going to be. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But, like I said, Rio in this book is our main male character. And then there's my favorite character in the book. She has not, um, how can I say, disappoint me in any way, and that is our character Cassidy. Um, she is such a riot. She is such a main character. She she is so obsessed, but at the same time, she's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna totally fall out of love with you, but yeah, don't take it too hard. But in the meantime, I am gonna treat you like you're a king and be completely obsessed with you." Rio, on the other hand, is not so keen about it. He has a lot of family issues. His mom died. His sisters, yes, sisters. There's a second. Um, one is only half sibling, and then obviously there's Gwen, who is also his half sibling. Um, because Rio and her do not share the same father, but the other character, his other sister, does. So he's abandoned by his stepfather. He's abandoned by his real dad. His real dad had nothing to do with him. And poor Rio, he's so hard on the family commitment part. But so is Cassie. Cassie is also not sure on the whole family situation. She craves it because of her situation she came from, where her mom was a sex worker, her dad was abusive, and that basically this whole idea of she doesn't want to lose her family and she craves the family she has. Like I said earlier, she does have four brothers and of course their wives and their children, and she holds on to them. And of course now she falls in love with Rio, and Rio does not sure how to handle it, but he's obsessed with her too. Like, she does little things that turn him on, and he's like, your psychotic mind, like wild girl, is like what turns me on. And she'll be on like a full on murder spree, and he's like, I'm turned on by this and I do not know why. Like, maybe it's just her. um and of course Rio is like trying to accept the job at the warehouse where Aaron is the main employer. And of course, he's like, yay, I work for the gangs that I despise. But he's being a bodyguard kind of thing. But slowly in this book, he integrates into the inner circle, not just because he's Guinevere's brother, but also because it's a whole family thing and trust. And Aaron's like, I lost too many people. He's like, and basically it comes down to, if you want to be part of the skeleton crew, you gotta do this. So Riot is like, What do I do? They're like, well, if you don't accept the deal, you're gonna be basically, welcome, but you're an outsider, and we're gonna treat you as such. But if you stay and do what we say, you're gonna be family, and we're gonna provide you with family, and you get a job, and you can come and go as you please. And he's like, work for the gangs I never want to be a part of, or stay with Cassie and be part of the gang, and yet be close to my sisters and everything. And he's like, okay, I guess I don't have really a choice. And it basically comes down to he's got to kill a guy. And he's like, so what did he do? And he told him. And he's like, oh, so he's disgusting scum. Okay. And of course, it was just a test for him. I mean, they did kill the guy, but he didn't have to do it. He had to watch, though. But also through this whole book, Cassie is like trying to figure out her feelings. Like she is scared for Rio. She loves Rio. She wants to have him for her own. She is determined to keep him, but in the beginning of the book, she gets a threat letter saying, or she doesn't seem like a threat, but she understands this, is somebody's asking her to meet, or she thinks it's a letter from Rio saying to meet me here, and she knows that Rio isn't that kind of guy. So, in the beginning of the book, she kidnaps him. Yes, in last session, I did say that her family's like, you cannot kidnap a guy you like, and she's like, okay, kidnap the guy I like. I got you. Um, that's one of her quirky little bits, and it's funny because she also wants to be like Shade. She wants to do the cleaning of house. She wants to get rid of all the bad scum in the world and, kill all these people who've done wrong or to society and hurt people. She wants to be basically the hero and be the underdog nobody expects. So anyway, she kidnaps Rio and takes her to her family home, where he meets her brothers. Um, and like I said, they're like, you cannot kidnap the guy you like, and she's just like, yes. That part gets me every time because I'm like, oh, the woman is so in love, but she's like, I was protecting him, and of course Rio's like, I am so pissed off at you right now. He's like, I'm turned on by this, but I'm pissed off right now, and it seemed to happen a lot. Throughout the book, he's constantly like enraged by her because she just is so impulsive in doing stuff. And he's like, did you ever once think of your safety? And she's like, no, but I thought about yours. Yeah. And they're just such a riot, but there's constant times where he's like tying her up and like he starts to be intimate with her and then pulls away and tells her no. Like she gets so mad. She's like, you don't understand how bad I need this. And Rio's like, you should have thought of that. So he's very calm, and he's not a killer in any means. He is like very protective of her, but he's not a killer. Um, he does kidnap her a lot too. Like all of a sudden he'll just like run at her, charge her, full on body tackle, throw her over the shoulder and carry her off like a caveman. And of course, she's the wise ass that every situation that is, she's waving at the people he's kidnapping her from. So she's such a smartass on that. But also throughout the book, they're trying to figure out who's the murderer. They thought they got the murder in the book, and they thought it was the second of command. Um, of this rival gang, and it's not. I knew there wasn't because something about it just did not seem right how it was. And of course, when this happened, it was about halfway through the book. I'm like, there's no way they're gonna stop the book halfway with being like, yeah, we got the murderer, yay, everything's fine dandy. Um, and then something happens to one of Cassie's friends where her throat was slit, but she survived. I was like, oh my god, no, not her. Um, and then the stories just started twisting and twinding of basically how you find out who the real murderer is, and things happen. Cassie's kidnapped, and one of her brothers goes on a burning spree because he's a pyromaniac, and just like it's just one of those things. And then there's a character that you thought was gone, and you're like, he's not. And then you're like, he's gone again. And then they leave the end of the book with, he's not. I'm like, oh, thank God he's not, because I feel bad. Like, it's one of those poor puppy moments. You're like, oh, he needs cuddles. Like, not like in my previous session with Liam, where I'm like, oh, the poor traumatic child. Come here, I'll hug you. It's more of a, he was more heartbroken because it was the only family he had, and his family's like, you disobeyed orders. And he's like, I'll make it up to you. And he does what they're bidding. And then they were told he was dead. And then he wasn't dead. And it just turned into this whole conversation. Um, there's also a lot of traitors that Aaron didn't know about in this book. And it takes Rio and Cassie to find out who. Um, and it's also just a strange situation because also Gwen's dad is actually like not who they thought was, and they also thought it was strange who the actual murderers are, and it's just completely compelling, and you're like, I can't stop reading. So like I also was saying, with a whole bunch of twists, of course, Rio gets a letter, and it says basically that from Cassie saying that she fell in love with him because it's the words that she's told him and nobody else knows. Um, and of course, she's getting kidnapped, his heart shattered. They have no idea what's going on. And when he finally rescues her because she got help getting out of the burned down building that her brother set ablaze that didn't know that she was in it, um, he says, "No, we're done. You broke up with me. And, I'll be on my way." And she's like, "I didn't write that letter." And he goes, "Oh, you must have and forgot." And as he's walking away, she runs into a cop, grabs his handcuffs, and puts it on him. And she's like, "No, I'm never letting you go." And he's like, "What are you doing, wild child?" And she's like, "Never, never letting you go. You're mine." Ah, so he's like, "All right, fine, I'll accept." And she goes, "I didn't write that letter, and you need to believe me." And she goes, "I don't know how or who listened into my conversation with my therapist, but she goes, I didn't write that letter." She goes, "I am so in love with you." And it's not even funny, it hurts. Of course, they all go back to their apartment to discuss who the murderer is. And as they're doing so, Rio is trying to pick the lock of the handcuffs to free themselves because, well, they can't go anywhere together. Um, and near the end, before they're like, all right, well, we gotta get going. Of course, Cassie pulls out the keys, the freaking cuffs, and he's like, "You mean I've been picking at this for 10 minutes and you had the key the whole time?" She goes, "Well, I just wanted you near me." Her psychopathic love for this man is just so funny, but it's at the same time the urge of obsession. Like, I had to laugh because I'm like, oh, dear Cassie. And of course, why this book is going on, there's like three different stories going on. You have the case of the murder, you have Rodian's trying to get revenge on his real dad, and then you have Cassie trying to figure out the whereabouts or who her mother was. And of course, there's also a fourth story about the two characters coming together and being completely obsessed with each other. It's just so great of a story. Like I said, Cassie has definitely won the top spot in this book. Rodian's definitely a close second because it's a lot of character building for him. And like he had to go and endure a lot of stuff to get where he was. And I do appreciate that. But Cassie is a funny riot and she's just such a sassy little thing. Like she's tiny, she's cute, and she's like trying to get educated from the sex workers how to turn Rodian on, and like she's such a smart mouth with all the freaking like men that she's torturing and killing, um the women that piss her off. She's just so funny of a character in the sassiness, even though she's on the verge of a psychopath. It's just who she is. She's just freaking hilarious. Definitely a 5 star on this book. Spy scenes are pretty good. Pretty good. Still the 4.5 though. I wish for more, or at least more description. But it was definitely nice how it was done because the characters are together a lot, and obviously they're in love and blah blah blah. The gushy mushy stuff, but at the same time they express their feelings differently. But also it's a lot of every time she says she loves him, it kind of like gets him in the heart because he's never really had that other than with Guinevere being his sister. The abandonment, and every time she's like, "I love you, Rhodia," he's like, "Oh, please say it again. Please just say it again." And she does. And she's like, "I love you with all my soul or heart, or, all of me, or my set craziness." And he's like, groans because he just enjoys hearing it. She's basically like, "Please just don't say it back because I'm afraid of falling out of love with you because of my obsessions usually." And then once I get comments from it, I stop liking it. So he basically comes out with saying, he's like, "You are my crazy obsession." Basically, he's basically uses a different word than love her, but he does tell her at the same time that he does love her. Um, they are such a cute couple. Like, I thought Aaron and Gwen were cute because he was like very overprotective, and then you got Shade and Everly, who is also like completely tight. Um, but I'm excited to see when the pre-order is done of the scouting crew for the next series, basically, to come out, because it involves our guy that went missing, and it involves one of the dancers who had her throat slit. So I'm kind of curious to know about that. And of course, apparently Aaron and Gwen are getting married, and Everly and Shade are expecting a baby. So it's exciting to see where that goes. And of course, Cassie has basically claimed Rio as her fiance, and he's like, "We're not even engaged," and she goes, "You put me on your bike. We are engaged now." So definitely a 5-star book, 4.5 on the spice level. It is a good book. I love it. I'm kind of sad it's done, but we'll see how the next series goes. But now I'm gonna end up going back to my probably my shifter books, because like I said, I like to jump back and forth. Although it's kind of 50-50. I was debating reading the shifter book, or was I gonna go back to the that Irish Mob series I was reading. So I'm kind of curious to know where that's gonna go. Um, but the next book I'm gonna read is Crave to Conquer by Zoe Ellis. But like I said, read the Body Count series by Jolie Vine, because those books were good. I do wish I ate them up faster, but with Christmas and then New Year's and then working on the 3D printing, um, I got a little distracted. And for some reason, I was just so exhausted, I just couldn't do anymore. And I was like, I want to read. And then I'd start reading, and then I get a paragraph in, and then crash. Um, I know everybody hates when you do fall asleep eventually, and then you find out that, your book fell out of your hands and you lost your page, and you're like, no, or you unconsciously start turning pages on your Kindle, and you're like, oh no, what page was I actually on? Don't do it. It's not fun. I don't like doing it. But I do hope everybody has a fantastic day. Keep warm. Everybody that's dealing with unruly weather, I do hope that you get through it unscathed and well prepared. I do feel bad for the forest fires that go on in California. I hope the people are able to rebuild. Um, yeah, it's just one of those things, and it's hard sometimes. But that's Mother Nature for you, and she will take what she wants when she wants it. You can't control it. You should never should, because that's how nature was intended. And if you do hear music in the background of my podcast, it is actually from YouTube. It is Scottish and Irish music, um, very Celtic. I do enjoy it for a relaxing morning. I know that, like I said, it's late getting posted. It is, currently, 11:30ish in my time zone. So I do hope everybody have a fantastic day. Go on an adventure. Go do something different. Take that photo. Try that food. Do something nice. It doesn't have to be expensive. You just have to do something small. Maybe pay it forward a little bit to somebody. But thank you for listening, and I hope everybody has a fantastic day. And I'll catch you on the next podcast with the next book review. Thank you for supporting and listening on. See you next time.